All right, friends. Just gotta say, it's the most hilarious thing to try and set up these videos. I'll be straight up. I'm not I'm not as skilled as I would like to be. However, trying to find the best way to sort of show the different skill sets. I am learning a new way to teach here. Okay, so this is just a little bit of a close-up lesson. A couple of you, we were talking about peeling apples, working with fruits that have a core in them. And there came up in the conversation the use of a melon baller. So a melon baller looks like this. It could have two ends on it, two different sizes. I have this one size at home, and it quite literally is a tool to create ball-shaped. It's meant more to decorate, to be honest, but the use of a melon baller is pretty handy when we're trying to get cores out of apples and pears. So I find that the motion of training to use the melon baller, that scoop motion, also works well. In a previous video, I talked about using the actual ice cream scoop. So getting the students used to that motion and getting comfortable with that. The melon baller is one tool that can help to work on that, and it's useful. So I have my own kids will use this when they're prepping up an apple, for example. So they'll cut the apple in half, and then they'll use the melon baller to take the core out. So it just kind of reduces waste instead of trying to take a knife and cut straight lines to take the core out, which inevitably means that there's loss of fruit. So it's basically it's food waste. You don't have to use a melon baller for this particular skill that I'm going to show you. You can also use just a straight up spoon. The only thing I will say is it's kind of handy if you are going to use a regular spoon or a coffee spoon. If there's one that has a little bit of a taper on the end, that's kind of helpful, and I'll explain why afterwards. But just a little bit of a taper, so you could use that. Also, some people have these in their cupboard. So measuring spoons, and these are metal measuring spoons, fairly rigid. I mean, they will bend if I press really firmly on it. It'll bend on the end there. But stuff like these could be used as well. And here's just a little one, a little measuring spoon. So you can use different items to get to the same end. This is the granddaddy. So this is the original. This is the one that did it in the first place. Okay. So here's how I get the students to do it. So I get them again. I haven't really talked about putting items into the student's hands, so I'll address it right now with this one. So often with the students, in order to get them to hang on to the item, what I'll do is I'll ask them to put their hand out nice and flat, okay? And then I look to see where their pointer finger is. And this might be kind of critical for your kids too. I look to see where their pointer finger is. And then I use that as the guide for hanging on to whatever the utensil is. So that's where I would lay it in their hand before. Here's an example with the knife, same thing. I would lay the knife in their hand like that as well. And then what I would do is I would have them close their hand around it, because I find the quick grab sometimes, the hand isn't in the right spot all the time. Knives are particularly dangerous, but starting with the open hand and laying, you can see where I'm laying the finger just on. And you can see where I go from the pointer finger to the center of the hand. So pointer finger to the center of the hand, and I get them to close their hand around it. I find that the grip falls in a far more natural position that way. So the same thing, we go back to the melon baller. So from the pointer finger, okay, to the center of the hand, and let them close their hand around it. The thing is, their hand won't stay in this weird kind of, as they close their hand around, it's gonna fall into a little better of a position. But if you're looking for some way to start it, to have it in their hand, it's from there to the center of their hand, and then they close their fingers around it, okay? So here's we can pretend, we know that this is just a cucumber, so we would be taking the melon baller, and what we do is put it flat against the end. That's a good starting point, okay? And then what we're doing is, this now is a push and turn. So push and then turn. And then we keep going all the way around. And then it's okay if it falls out. There's your one little piece. Now what you have to imagine, you can imagine a lot of different things. If you're actually I guess, doing up melon for some sort of a fruit salad, that's what the actual intent is. But if that's where the core was on the apple, look how nice and cleanly that came around. So that's what the use with the melon baller. It's almost the exact same process with this. With the spoon, the reason, a slightly different way to do this, and you'll know your kid whether or not this works well. Okay, so this one instead, again, we're gonna put it into the hand, we line it up, but what we're gonna try and encourage is for your child to actually hold the bowl. So when you're putting it on their hand, you would put the actual bowl of the spoon on their hand and have them close their hand around it. So that's the grip that we want. We want to hold the bowl. And then what we can do is we would do push and then turn. So, but what we're doing is we're sort of turning the hand around inside. Now my cucumber, I will tell you, is a little bit squishy right now, okay? But you can do the same thing with the spoon and you can sort of dig it out. Now, you can see as far as detail goes, and this just takes some practice, this one didn't do as clean a job as this one. But to be honest, it's still a better cut than trying to cut around it in squares, okay? So, melon baller, metal measuring spoons, or a coffee spoon can get you that melon ball core remove, however you want to do it, okay? The one thing I will say is that often with melon ballers, what you can't see is it's not blade sharp, but the edges around here have been ground down, so it's a fairly fine edge. Again, it's not going to cut your finger, but it's very, very thin on the edge. So that tends to be able to also, you'll see if we go into here, you can go through skins. Turn, 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 turn. Okay, so it'll actually go through skins as well. There you go, a little quick lesson on melon balling and getting cores out of vegetables and things. I appreciate you folks. Look forward to making another video for you very, very soon. Take care.